a playlist original.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Back to the Blockbuster. My name is Gaius Bowling, and it's just the three of us.
It's just us today, guys.
Just
the
us.
three of us.
No
Finally.
guest.
Back to the OG.
No, it's always good to go back to the original, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's great. It's great having guests on, and they bring like a lot of like fresh energy to every episode. But it started with us, so it's always good when it can just be the three of us on. So
and also what we're doing today as well is kind of what maybe our original concept might have been. So very excited to kind of get after it and get into it and talk about something specific today.
Yeah, it's gonna be really cool because like this kind of was not my idea. I kind of took a lot of this from like what you guys talked about with talking about specific films and like kind of breaking them down a little bit. We'll explain a little bit more about it when we get to it, but I think it's going to be a good way for you to get to know us kind of each month when we pick a movie to jump into. We'll still talk about some hot topics and stuff, but I think each episode is going to get more focused on like kind of having themes and stuff, so we don't have to just do the same thing over and over again, which I think is good.
Yeah, keeping it light.
But I guess we can get into like what we watched. I watched a lot of stuff over the weekend. Brittany is kind of in the same boat because I did some reviews for the website for Sundance, mostly the horror stuff because I was told in the email that I am their horror guy. So I'm reviewing all the horror movies and thrillers that are at Sundance. And then Brittany, you watch a lot as well. I don't know if there's anything that stands out to you that you want to talk about.
Well, I'm a festivals coordinator, so like this was like a major weekend for my job. We were working really hard leading up to this weekend, so it was kind of nice to like relax and take a load off and get to like watch some of our competition. I guess.
Yeah. Nice. Gaius, you sounded offended when you said that you're the horror guy, but like you should feel honored.
No. I feel good. I feel good about it because there were certain ones I was like, oh, I would love to review that, but it is a compliment. He was saying that like, yeah, I don't really know anything about, especially like independent horror. He was like, I don't know much about that. I feel like you would be more inclined to like want to talk about it. I just really wanted to get some of the other stuff that because he reviewed some things. I was like, oh, I want to watch that. But that was cool.
Things were selling out though. It was so crazy. Like, it was really hard to get tickets to. You would think like virtual, it's like unlimited tickets, but it's not. There's only so much capacity for the servers. So, I didn't get to see a lot of the stuff I wanted to see, but I was happy with what I did see.
Nice.
Yeah. And like some of them, so the screeners they send us for the website for review, like some of them like run out after a certain amount of time. So they were like, you have like 2 days to watch it. The first one I watched, I guess I barely made the cut because I thought I had 72 hours to watch it, and it was 48. So like the movie, the credits were like playing, and then it like shut off. So like I just made it. So I was like, thank God, because I didn't want to have to like win that review. Like,
especially for a horror movie.
I missed the last 20 minutes. I'm sure it was probably good, but I don't know.
You're lucky it wasn't an M. Night Shyamalan movie.
I know, like some big twist. Some of the stuff I watched was really good though. I mean, there's some potential for the genre in general if some of this stuff kind of catches on.
What did you guys see?
Brittany, you want to go? You watched more than I did.
The two that I wanted to touch on, so I watched 892, which is Michael K. Williams' last movie before he passed away. It had a really great cast, but it did take place in one setting, so I didn't really love that. It's about a veteran that robs a bank and like says he has a bomb. And it's based on a true story, like it actually happened. 892 is the amount of money that he was like trying to get from the VA for his disability. So he was robbing the bank for $892.
Oh shit.
So
Nice.
It's a true story, unfortunately. It's really sad and dark, but the acting was incredible in it. But yeah, I'm not a fan of movies that take place in one setting.
So you hated the Hateful Eight.
And phone
Yeah,
booth.
I get like a little claustrophobic when I see movies like that, because I'm like, I need a different setting. I need to be like moved to a different place.
Yeah.
And then I also saw part one of an HBO documentary called Phoenix Rising, which is about Evan Rachel Wood trying to pass the bill for the statute of limitations on rape allegations, rape victims, sexual assault victims, because in the US right now it was 1 to 3 years, and
Oh wow.
they got it extended to like 3 to 5. It's about Marilyn Manson. It's the first time that Evan Rachel Wood has been outspoken and called him by his name and said that he was the person that he was the assaulter.
Okay.
So she had
Wow.
never been open about who assaulted her, but everyone knew who it was. They dated. So it's very interesting. They go into a lot of detail. So trigger warning.
Yeah, they did
Wow.
it when she was young. She was pretty young when they started dating, right? Like they
He was
basically
grooming her when she was like 16.
Yeah.
Yeah, that for any number of reasons that's weird to me. Just dating Marilyn Manson in general is a weird concept, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
But I'm wondering what his his grooming of her was, because like anyone from a third party outsider would never touch Marilyn Manson with a 10-foot pole. So I'm wondering what like sort of like obviously there's fame, notoriety, money, whatever, or access to drugs maybe or something like that. But I'm just wondering what like his grooming of her was that kind of led her to be like, yeah, you know what, I see myself being with this person consistently, because like I said, I just can't imagine anyone wanting to be a part of first of all, anyone who loves Marilyn Manson, I'm sorry. But I just can't imagine can't imagine anyone who's like, you know, I see myself in a lifelong relationship with this man being whatever he is.
Yeah, the documentary talks a lot about Evan Rachel Wood and what led her to be able to be a victim of this. I mean, it goes into like her childhood and how she had abuse in her family growing up, and then she was so young, she was so vulnerable and so young, you know, and so impressionable.
Yeah.
But it's a 2-part documentary, and they only showed part 1 at Sundance. So
she's also such an incredible actress. I mean,
yeah, she's really good.
Just I really only got introduced to her through Westworld, and like that was really when I first started seeing her. I also really haven't explored a lot of her discography, I guess you could say. So I'm definitely,
I think you would understand her story a lot more if you saw 13.
13 is like, 13 is probably, and 13 is not even about like the girl who wrote 13, Nikki Reed. It's about her, but she didn't want to play herself in it, so she plays the best friend who like kind of corrupts her other friend. It's a pretty powerful movie. Like, it really details how this girl her life completely changed at 13, and she went from being like a good girl to suddenly just like doing all these things to kind of like push boundaries, and like, you know, it's a hard watch just knowing that someone that young experienced a lot of that and was going through a lot of that, but it's a powerful movie. And
Evan Rachel Wood was like 13 when she made it, so it was,
there's some parallels there too to her real life, I guess, as well. I've always been curious because, like, you know, Rose McGowan, you know, has been like a very outspoken Me Too person and all that, and she dated Marilyn Manson for a minute. And has she ever said anything about him? Or, I mean, she has. Okay, I wasn't sure.
But they don't mention it in part 1 of the documentary. But after we watched it, we were like all discussing it, and we were like Googling all kinds of like stuff. I mean, and also Marilyn Manson got remarried in 2020. So like he's like married to a woman who is the same age difference as Evan Rachel Wood and Marilyn Manson were. So it's sketchy. He's got a type.
Yeah.
Young.
That's gross.
Like a 25-year age difference.
It's just crazy because you never see that anywhere else in society. I mean, it's literally the only times you ever see this is it comes with power and money and fame. And
Mhm.
so, I mean, like, I think I was surprised. My grandfather was, I think, 8 years older, or 8 or 9 years older than my grandma. And even that, I was like, that is crazy. Like, that
Mhm.
is to me a normal, unexpected age gap. But
Yeah.
this thing in Hollywood where, I mean, DiCaprio's been doing it too for a long time, where it's like,
He
I mean, I think
always does it.
my
You
favorite
know,
joke is Ricky Gervais. He says, "Hey, I just want to make sure my monologue stays short because by the time it gets over, DiCaprio's date will be too young for him or too old for him."
too old for him. Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's just like it's crazy.
I'm too
So,
old for him.
yeah. And you know, he doesn't really get called out too much about it because they're usually age appropriate. It's not like they're like 17 or
they're
like
like
anything like that.
22.
They're in
Well,
their
that's
early
the
20s.
thing.
But
Well,
like,
that's the
yeah,
thing with Evan Rachel Wood. They met when she was 16 and she was with Jamie Bell. And then he was like getting in and being her friend for just until like literally the week she turned 18, and then he raped her. But she didn't realize it was rape at the time. She was like, I blinked and it was over. Like,
Mhm.
yeah.
she didn't even realize what was happening.
It was like
So
Tyga with Kylie Jenner. I mean, he bought her a Ferrari when she was 17 or something and was like, "Hey,
yeah.
so
Yeah.
this
It's so
comes with
weird.
strings attached."
Yeah, it's so weird because I feel like these things kind of get a pass. So like we talk about like people like, I mean, even though these girls are technically adults, like someone like Scott Disick will date a 18, 19-year-old girl and he's in his late 30s with kids. And it like I don't feel like that's appropriate either. I mean, some people will say like, well,
Absolutely not.
they're like, well, it's different
It's
because
not.
these are like Hollywood kids and like they're basically older. Like their
They're
18 is
still
not like our
kids.
18, but they're still kids.
I actually
And
think that it's the opposite. I think that Hollywood kids probably have a very disassociative, like they're probably less mature because they think they're mature, but they really can't make choices for themselves.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, even when I was a freshman in college, and then 4 years later, I would consider all these freshmen so young. Or like you ever knew those guys that when you were in high school, you knew a girl that had a college boyfriend.
yep.
Like when you get to college, that's fucking weird.
Yeah.
Like that's just so weird.
When I
I
was
can't
20,
imagine a
when I was
35-year-old
20, I had a
dating a high school
25-year-old
senior.
boyfriend, and now then when I turned 25, I was like, ew, I would never date a 20-year-old.
The
Like,
thing
what
is,
are you
like
doing?
at 20, you're at least out of high school. I'm thinking like if Scott Disick's gonna date an 18-year-old, he's 35 dating a high school senior. And that's just
Yeah, what do
messed
they
up.
have in common?
Yeah, nothing. There's absolutely
Yeah.
no common ground there.
At all.
Yeah.
Well, I watched a movie called You Won't Be Alone. It's a foreign horror film that it's one of those movies that's more about like it's not like straight horror. It's more like the style of it makes it kind of scary and some of the themes makes it scary. But basically the basic premise is there's this tale of this like ancient like creature that like basically wants to take like newborn children and to basically claim as her own because she's living in loneliness and wants a companion.
Sounds
Th-
German.
yeah, this woman, this woman, she wants her baby, but she makes a pact with her like if she could raise her own kid until she's 16 years old, she will hand her over to her at 16. So like she makes the deal like right with like a blood covenant, scars the baby, and then does come back for the girl who's like living feral in the woods for like until she's 16. Uh, the thing is that she thinks that she can control this girl because she actually, when she makes the blood covenant, she takes her voice, so she can't talk. She wants someone that can be with her, that is at her bidding, that can't think for herself. But what happens is the girl's in a monologue, she's constantly curious about life, about other forms of life. And the one thing that this lady tells her how to do is how to jump into other people's bodies. And when she realized that she can't control the little girl anymore, she leaves her on her own. And the girl kind of fends for herself and once is curious about human life. So she takes the form of someone who's human and basically learns like what they kind of go through. Like the woman whose body she takes over first is respected in the village, but then she kind of finds what it's like to be a vulnerable human being because she's like attacked by a man that like wants to sexually assault her. So she realized there's like a weakness in being a woman in that situation. So she again takes a male's body the second time and starts to do the things that were done to her basically when she was it like so it's like this it's an interesting like kind of parallel of like self-discovery and like trying to like you know basically not all things that you learn like all human nature not all life lessons are good, so some of the things that she's learning as she goes along, you know, you would think after she was attacked that she wouldn't want to do that to someone else, but the thing that she does next when she takes on the form of a guy, it's attack someone else because there's like power in that and she wants to know what that feels like. It's dark and weird, but it's like it's still interesting to watch from like start to finish up.
It's not horror for the sake of like gore or anything. It's just disturbing.
This is disturbing. There are some like the body switches are kind of gory, but like for the most part,
when she switches the body, they die. Those people.
Yeah, so she basically like eats their insides. Like you see her starting it, and then there's like they do like some like practical effects to make it seem like her like muscles and stuff are moving and she's changing into someone else. That's how they kind of do it. It does a lot without showing too much, but it does show enough where it's pretty gory. The other one I watched was called Watcher, which was a lot better. It is a slow burn thriller, but the finale makes it worth it. Like this girl moves with her boyfriend to Budapest, and she you learn throughout the movie that she wants to be an actress, but she's giving up her life to go move with her boyfriend, who is working constantly. So she's always alone. So she's always alone basically with her thoughts. And then like midway through the movie, she realized that someone is like stalking her, someone is watching her. And no one really like what the movie does really well, and I won't give it away because like the twist is really good. There's a lot of like, is she just so bored and misplaced out of her mind that she's making this all up in her head? Or is someone actually watching her and stalking her? Interesting. And the payoff is like very, very good. Because I mean, it's not like they present the stalker like the boyfriend, she has a boyfriend, the boyfriend even sees him. But it's just a matter of like, how much of a threat is he? Is he really a threat? Is it all in her head? Or like, it's really interesting. It is slow, so you have to kind of stick with it. But the payoff was worth it. And
it's not foreign. It's a
no, it's not. No, it's not.
That's English.
Yeah, you don't have to read. But yeah,
do you know what platform it's going to be on?
So they are still trying to I guess sell it right now. Yeah. That's why I guess they were really anxious for us to get our reviews out because most of them have been pretty good. But yeah, I enjoyed it. I mean, I think like with horror movies though, when it's a slow burn, it kind of loses some people when they're too slow. I mean, like Brittany saw Scream. There's that whole concept of like elevated horror and it being too smart and people not wanting to watch it because not enough happens. But if you're willing to stick,
I would consider that more of a thriller then. Like, I mean,
yeah, like
because I mean, I wouldn't say slow burn, but the definition for me of a thriller is a movie something like Prisoners, where I wouldn't consider that a horror movie. Like, yeah, it's horrible and it's like some of those things that like I wish I had an extra deadbolt after that movie, and I made sure I locked my doors after that. Yeah, but I would consider that a thriller, and so I think that do you have to have a jump scare in order to say it's a horror movie?
No, I don't think you do. I think what unfortunately what sells to the masses is like there's certain horror movies that sell well to people who say like, oh, I'm like a horror movie fan, but really they want not to not Scream because I liked it, but they want something more like that and less about like, well, you have to like think about why this is scary. They like some people don't like that. Like you'll see stuff like Hereditary and Midsommar and The Witch. Like they'll get really great reviews, but when you look at like, the Babadook, when you look at some of their cinema scores though from like opening night audiences though, the cinema scores are usually pretty low because regular people are like, well, what the fuck was that?
Regular people.
Well, no, casual moviegoers. They're like, peasants. I don't get what. Peasant moviegoers. They're like
the regular film goers.
Yeah. The Owens of the world. I don't know.
Oh, come on.
But
by the way, I haven't seen either. So
yeah, true. But there's still some more stuff I'm gonna get to see, so I'm excited. Even though it's all horror, it'll be interesting to watch. And a lot of people on Twitter are really excited for first time filmmakers at Sundance. Like some of them think they're putting out some good stuff. So I kind of wish they had the opportunity to have the actual festival like in person and have that whole experience. But at least they're working something out there.
There was the female filmmaker. I'm trying to remember her name. I'm gonna pull it up right now for 892. She was a female director. I'm gonna pull it up. It is Abby Damaris Corbin.
Nice.
She directed that, and she was
Nice.
I think she was a first time Sundance director debut. Amy Poehler had her documentary Lucy and Desi debut premiered there.
Nice.
Yeah, big opportunity for some women, and there was a whole section of like Black filmmakers as well, and they did a good job this year.
Was it Amy Poehler's directorial debut? Because I mean, I wouldn't consider.
No, it was
yeah,
for a
because I was like,
documentary.
I feel like saying giving Amy Poehler an opportunity might be the wrong way to phrase
No,
it, because she's
no,
already
but
insanely
she-
successful.
She directed Moxie, which is on which
Netflix,
premiered
right?
on Netflix like last year. This was her first time directing a documentary,
Okay,
Nice.
so it is a little bit different.
I
It's got
fucking
a
love Amy
whole
Poehler.
different.
So whatever she does, I'm in for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this was like a more serious, I guess. I mean, as serious as Lucy and Desi are, but
Mhm.
it's a documentary about their family, and it's like fully full cooperation from the Lucy and Desi families. So it's the first time they've ever fully participated and backed a documentary about
So
them.
Nice.
that means you're gonna get like the real deal then if they
Mhm.
if it has their support, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
What I love about Amy Poehler is that many people that I've heard talk about her, comedians, her ex-husband Will Arnett, I mean, everybody consistently says that she's not just the funniest woman that they've ever met, she's the funniest person that they've ever met, like the most intellectually quick-witted, smart, funny person that they've ever met in their entire life. And I would consider Tina Fey up there with her. I mean,
Yeah.
I
for
think
sure.
that there's like certain times where women kind of get put into a category of, you're a funny woman, you're not just a funny person. And I mean, I would consider her, Tina Fey, as up there in top 5 funniest people alive.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I would
I
too.
agree.
I agree.
I think they were so lucky to have found each other. I think they
Yeah.
are truly soulmates.
Oh, I totally
Yeah.
agree.
Comedic soulmates.
Yeah.
Comedic soulmates,
Soulmate,
you're right.
yeah.
And they also were they found the sweet spot of like prime time television gold, where like nowadays if you made 30 Rock, people would like it, but it would not have gotten the same reception as NBC that night, whatever night it aired. Like they had the golden age of sitcom.
They had Lauren Michaels.
Yeah, they really did.
That's true.
They
That's
had
true.
the post like things like Friends and all that were kind of like Will and Grace, those style
Seinfeld,
those style sitcoms that kind of like weren't as popular anymore. And so you were getting
total
stuff like
all laugh track.
right. So you were getting stuff like The Office and 30 Rock and Parks and Rec, and it was like a really sweet time. Even though what's crazy is that not so much The Office, but 30 Rock didn't have like great ratings the whole time it was on, but it had a very devoted following, and then it was also winning Emmy after Emmy and Golden Globes, and because it was just a smart show, and it got I think it was on for 7 seasons, somewhere right now.
Yeah, 7.
What's so funny is 30 Rock is like one of those shows that everyone that I know that works in the industry loves that show because they relate to it, because it's so like backhanded, funny, like slapstick. Like
the
it's
thing is,
just it's such a good show.
I think I've watched every episode. I think I've watched the whole seasons through at least 3 times, because no matter what, I find a joke that I didn't remember. I think even one of my favorite ones is when Alec Baldwin is in his office and Tina Fey walks in. She says, "Jack, you're wearing a tux. Like, what's the occasion?" He says, "It's after 6, Lemon. What am I, a farmer?"
Yeah, Alec Baldwin was gold on that show. I mean,
Wasn't that kind of like a re-up for him? Because he had
he was. I mean, he had been working consistently, but it kind of was like a resurgence a bit of him, because I think he won the Emmy in his category like
He's
year
so
after
funny.
year.
I think
for
he
that
really
role.
found his stride with that.
Yeah, and I think Tracy Morgan tends to do the same thing, but like that thing is really funny. So him on 30 Rock, I used to always crack up because even though it's Tracy Morgan, I think that Tina Fey knows his voice, knows why he's funny, and like gave him a lot of stuff that I think just works on that.
I think
Like,
he
show.
improvised a lot of his stuff.
I think he did too. Yeah.
Oh, 100 like literally,
She was
like
like letting him do whatever he wanted.
His humor was how they wrote the show. Like
Yeah.
they didn't conceptualize Tracy Jordan as a
That's
character
true.
until they literally were like, yo, we could have Tracy Morgan basically be himself, but a lot more farcical and all that kind of stuff. And so I think he basically wrote that part for himself.
Yeah. So we're gonna power through some news, like kind of like rapid fire a little bit. I want to start with something that Brittany might be connected to through Amazon. Like the Lord of the Rings show released a promo and released their official title. It's called The Lord of the Rings: The Rings of Power. A lot of nerds were very excited.
Comment further.
I know it's a lot of nerds are very excited for this very short clip, but they're really excited for the story it's going to tell. I know Amazon. I mean, I don't want to speak entirely for Amazon, but Deadline was saying that like their hope is that this will be like Game of Thrones. That's like that's why they're putting a lot of into it, and that would make sense that they would want to kind of make that their Game of Thrones. And there is name recognition there's name recognition with Lord of the Rings. So I mean, I know Brittany can't say much. But are you interested in watching a Lord of the Rings show? Owen, like, is that something that you'd be interested in watching?
Well, I mean, you're talking to someone who grew up watching the extended, like I had all three movies, the extended versions of each. So like 2.5 hours for half of one. So like each movie was basically 5 hours. And I grew up, my first PG-13 movie I ever saw was The Two Towers Fellowship of the Ring. And just one of those things that I've grown up on. And so anything Lord of the Rings is one of those things that I will consistently be interested in and always want to see how they do it. My worry is when they came out with The Hobbit, that shit was entertaining, but it was basically cash grabs for 3 fucking movies. And it really, and like, I thought the CGI was bad. I thought they created characters that didn't need to be there. I mean, it should, like, I don't even know if it needed to be turned into a movie. And so that's what I'm worried about, is that they're going to kind of try to create something that doesn't need to be created. I hope they just kind of stick to something that is going to entice fans and kind of stick to the legends or whatever is in the book. And I mean, but also like this could be an extension of whatever the book is.
Right.
But I hope that it lives up to expectations, because with The Hobbit I was very disappointed.
So apparently the show is set in the Second Age of Middle-earth, thousands of years before the events of Lord of the Rings films and novels. So I mean, I guess there's some leeway to kind of like tell stories that happened before and build interest on that. I agree with you about The Hobbit. I remember, and even Peter Jackson has talked about like how frustrated he was with how he had to attack The Hobbit, because there was all this pressure to like extend that one story into 3 very long movies, and the narrative suffers because of that. Like they're entertaining, but they're not as like streamlined as like Fellowship of the Ring and Two Towers and Return of the King. They just don't have the same like overall story impact, because they were like kind of milking it for money.
And the thing is too, is like the Lord of the Rings was successful because they did not cut any corners. They didn't rely on heavy CGI. They used it, but they didn't rely on it, which I think The Hobbit did. I mean, there were metal workers in the Weta Workshop in New Zealand that literally made every single freaking chainmail piece that hundreds, if not thousands of extras wore by hand. And so, I mean, just the attention to detail, I think, was left out in order to release a Hobbit movie every year, rather than taking the time to really get it right and just say, hey, this is the story we want to tell. The money doesn't necessarily matter. We care about making this movie good. I thought that The Hobbit kind of skipped over that, tried to cut some corners, and eventually made a movie that was underwhelming.
Right, because Lord of the Rings felt more planned, because it was like, okay, we're making these 3 movies at the same time. This is what the deal is, and that wasn't really necessarily the case with The Hobbit, I feel like there was less planning and more like we can milk this more for like from like name recognition because like
Yeah.
it'll make money no matter what.
Yeah.
And I think they suffered like creatively because of that. But like we said before, with stuff being turned into TV shows or using the TV show format, there is potential to kind of tell really cool stories over a longer period of time across like 8 or 10 episodes. How many episodes are going to be? I see the potential there, and and Amazon's faith in it seems to be pretty high. So I mean that makes me a little excited.
Where are they filming this? Do you know, Brittany?
I'm actually not
It's
sure.
already filmed.
But like,
It's already done.
Where did they film it?
I have no idea, but what I want to say about it is that, yes, Amazon has a lot of faith in this to be the next Game of Thrones-esque, but it's one of those cult film classics that people will have high expectations, and they know that, and it's one of those things we won't know what people think about it until it comes out. It's like, Amazon can put everything, they can put all their eggs in this basket, but we don't know how the people are going to take it until it's out,
Yeah.
Right. Oh, to answer your question, Owen, it was filmed in New Zealand.
I would hope so. That's what I was hoping.
From February 2020 to August 2021. And there was like a lot of production breaks because of COVID, pandemic.
Gotcha. I mean, that's what I was hoping for, was that they would use the same medium, I guess you could say.
Yeah, same setting.
But I mean, like I said, like Brittany just said, I do have high expectations. And it's so funny to me that the point that I want to make is that Peter Jackson did such a great job with that he is basically famous for that. And every other movie that he makes, if you say the name Peter Jackson, people are going to get excited. Yeah. But I'm wondering, what else has he made? I know he made District 9, but besides that, like, what else has he made that's been?
So he was a producer on District 9. He was known before Lord of the Rings for doing a lot of like horror movies. They were like really gory, like genre fans like love him. So when he got the Lord of the Rings, that was his first big like massive like tentpole kind of movie. Yeah. And then of course he did like King Kong and like
that's right.
And and then all the Hobbit movies.
First movie I cried at, King Kong.
No, really?
Really?
When King Kong dies, you guys
spoiler alert.
You guys did. When you guys can't tell me you didn't cry when King Kong died.
I didn't cry when King Kong died.
Damn.
I didn't either.
Someone doesn't have a heart.
Well, speaking of things that are very long, since you're talking about the extended editions of Lord of the Rings, the official runtime for the Batman came out, and it clocks in the movie itself at a solid 2 hours and 55 minutes. With credits, it's almost 3 hours. The social media reaction to this was mixed. There were some people who were like, if it's a good fucking movie, I don't care how long it is. And then there were other people that were like, that's way too long. Why is it so long? Especially because you're kind of relaunching it. Like maybe you should kind of like not go for it so hard like that. The previous longest Batman movie was The Dark Knight Rises at 2 hours and 45 minutes. I did not realize that was that long. And there's very little Batman in that movie, by the way, in the 2 hours and 45 minutes.
I think that this runtime there's pros and cons to a long runtime. The pro that you just mentioned, Gaius, is that a movie like The Dark Knight Rises, you didn't even realize that it was that long. But the con for me is, how do I rewatch this? Like, it's why I've still never seen the entire full movie of Pearl Harbor, because it's 3 hours long. Like, there's not a lot of opportunities and situations where you can just say, hey, listen, I'm going to sit down and watch a 3 hour movie. So I think that's definitely one of the cons. And I'm wondering, the first viewing of it is going to be awesome, but then when do you watch it again?
Yeah.
I don't think any movie should be that long. I really am so over these long ass movies. I can't sit in a movie theater. Like, I get so fucking bored. I have ADD. Like, do I have to take an Adderall before I go see this fucking movie? I don't want to see a 3 hour movie, whether it's a horror movie, whether it's Batman, I don't care what. The House of Gucci was almost 3 hours long. I had an issue with that. I just think like there's absolutely no reason for it. Nobody wants to sit through a movie that long. Make it into 2 parts then. 2 movies.
Yeah, there's you know, what I kind of notice here though is it's 2 hours and 55 minutes, which means that like the director Matt Reeves is getting to make the movie that he wants to make, right? They're like, usually a studio is like, that's way too long.
My edible is gonna wear off before this movie is over.
Right. No, it's true. But and you know what's crazy is that apparently there was a 4-hour cut that they did screen for Warner Brothers.
Did Zack Snyder direct this?
Well, it's funny that you bring up Zack Snyder because everyone was like talking about like, oh, like why didn't they let Zack Snyder make his movie as long as he wanted to make it? And they're letting Matt Reeves. There's a difference. I think they also have learned their lesson not to like interfere too much.
Because guess what? If they interfere too much, he'll come out and say, "Here's my cut."
Here's my cut. But it's like it's kind of frustrating because it's I think it's going to be good, but if it happens to not be good and it's like drags in places, you're gonna feel that runtime. Now there's certain movies where I don't feel that. I mean, Avengers Endgame was long, and I didn't feel that length at all. But
Agreed.
But that's because maybe you had 20 some odd movies building up to this, and you're excited, and like.
And there's also a lot happening.
Right.
And they have some like funny aspects to those films. Like this is a dark ass movie. Like this Batman movie is going to be so dark. It's going to be like mentally draining after we watch this movie.
All right. So I have a question. Over under, how many times are we going to see Robert Pattinson in a brooding stance?
3 hours.
I'm saying at least 9. If it's 3 hours, like at least 9 like long shots that are kind of going around his face of just him being like, fuck, like what's going on? I don't know if I can handle, like it's gonna be a lot.
Well, and the other problem with it being this long of a movie, and like you said, there was a 4-hour version and it got cut down. The same thing with House of Gucci. It was longer, and I could tell that they cut out certain things that were necessary for the storyline that just made it too long. But then they were like, it was just choppy. Like they needed to keep those scenes in for it to make sense continuity wise, but they had to cut it in places just so that it wasn't a 4-hour movie. And now this is going to be a 4-hour movie, but cut down to almost 3 hours. So there's going to be bits and pieces that are going to feel choppy, I think.
I think so too. And I would also like to, I like to see a movie at a certain time. So I can't go watch this shit at like 10 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
Me too.
If you sign up for the late showing, like you better have nothing planned.
I like going to like a
tomorrow.
9 o'clock night, I can't. It's gonna be over 1 a.m.
Yeah,
no,
absolutely not. That's the only. I mean, like I hope. I mean, I have a feeling it's gonna be good. And maybe that's a good sign that they have faith in him. They're like, all right, you make your 2 hour and 55-minute cut. It's good.
Also, 20 minutes of like trailers before the movie.
Right. So that's not even. That doesn't even count. That doesn't count the. Yeah.
There's gonna be a scene after the credits, probably. So then you got to sit through the credits.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was gonna say this. Like when I went to go see Spider-Man, I don't know if this is just a reaction to the fact that now that we're doing the podcast and I start to like continuously follow your page, so I'm seeing a lot of trailers. Yeah. But every damn trailer that I saw in the theater was something that I'd seen months ago.
Yeah.
So it's like for me, these trailers are starting to be redundant and they're frustrating because as soon as I see the opening scene, I'm like, all right, I've already seen this. Let's just move on. Let's get through it.
And that's what sucks.
There's like 10 of them.
Yeah, that's what sucks with the COVID thing too, because it pushed a lot of these back. So we were seeing trailers for a lot of these movies like, in 2020, and then they were like getting pushed back. So like something like The Kingsman, like I feel like I saw the movie already because I saw like 20 some odd trailers for the last year and a half. And then it's the same thing with like Uncharted. Like I've seen that trailer a lot now too. AMC is notorious. AMC does like 15 minutes of previews before the movie. And I remember when like the ArcLight was around, they only did like 2 or 3, and that's like perfect. I don't need to watch 15, 20 minutes of like movie trailers when like they're like, online too. They're available to you online. So I don't need to like watch 15 to 20 minutes of before, especially a 3-hour movie.
I enjoy seeing the credits on the big or the trailers on the big screen. I will say I do enjoy that. But I I mean also they show you trailers of movies that cater to the movie that you're watching.
Right.
So there are gonna be some dark trailers.
Yep.
So it's just gonna be a dark 4 hours. Like
It's very bleak.
yeah.
There's like, and I imagine there's not going to be a lot of levity in the Batman. There won't be much like humor, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
like so
There's
there
gonna
won't
be absolutely no laughing moments in
so
this
there's nothing
movie.
to break that up. So the next thing I wanted to get to you, because I was going to post this on our Instagram page on the story, but I think you posted it before I did, and it was when the news dropped that Daniel Radcliffe was playing Weird Al Yankovic in a movie.
It was probably when I was going through my Harry Potter spiral when I had COVID.
So when I got that news, I was like, okay, Daniel Radcliffe as Weird Al, it could be either extremely brilliant or absolutely terrible.
Well, so my only point that I think it's going to be good is because I didn't know that Andrew Garfield could sing until Tick Tick Boom.
Mm.
So maybe Daniel Radcliffe will surprise us with his rapping skills.
Yeah, maybe. Isn't he shorter than Weird Al too? Like, isn't there like a height?
He's shorter than everyone.
He's
like 5'6".
And like, you know, like, because we have to create the images for the stories on Joe Blow. And when I was like splicing the image of like him and Weird Al, I was like trying to picture him looking like him.
Yeah.
And, like,
do you think he's gonna grow his hair out?
Yeah, I couldn't.
There's no way. It would take him years.
Maybe like he's already started. Who's seen him lately?
Who knows?
Well,
wellness check on Danny.
Yeah. Like it's what's interesting though is this is for the Roku channel. It's not even like
it's
a theatrical biopic. But Weird Al is behind it.
Yeah, I was gonna say, if you were Hulu, would you buy a Weird Al Yankovic?
I mean, there could be some like good stuff in his story that's like interesting. I don't know. I mean, I'm just more surprised by the casting. I was like, who was like, yeah, let's call up Daniel Radcliffe and see if he wants to play Weird Al.
I would love to see James Franco play Weird Al. Well, I know he's canceled.
Yeah, we would have to get him out of cancellation.
But I think he would be like, I think he would make a good, or like Seth Rogen. Like, I think they could make a good, like a Judd Apatow production of a Weird Al like biopic.
Like it's
I think that would be funny.
It's not an actual biopic. It's like a extension of what they want to make. Like that would be awesome. A Seth Rogen Weird Al movie would be awesome.
Yeah.
Well, Daniel Radcliffe can be goofy. I mean, like he can be kind of over the top. I guess I can see that. I just thought it was like
who's the guy that was in who's the guy that's in Forgetting Sarah Marshall? What's his name?
Russell Brand.
Jason Segel.
Russell Brand would be great.
Oh, Russell Brand would be amazing.
Russell Brand's probably like really spot on actually. Gordon, what do you think?
Yeah.
For those that can't see, Owen's cat has opinions.
Gordon is.
One of the last things I wanted to get into before we got into the movie, I just thought the story was funny because I don't know who these two goobers are, but I know one of them's from San Diego and one's from Maryland, I think. They, I guess, rented the movie yesterday on Amazon Prime for $3.99. They rented it based on the fact that they saw Ana de Armas in the trailer for it. Her scene was cut from like the final version of the film, but the trailer, she's still featured in the trailer. So they are suing Universal Pictures for basically false advertising because they said that they bought the movie based on the fact that she was in it and that they didn't appreciate Universal Pictures using her star power to elevate like the other performers in the movie who weren't as famous as her at the time. And they are seeking like all these damages. I don't know. And I don't know exactly how much do they want their $3.99 back.
Can someone just Venmo them?
Someone just, but like I was my
this
first
is
thought,
so stupid.
I love this.
I loved it. I love that story, but like my first thought was like, okay, you guys
they're going up against like a big.
They're not.
Sorry,
super
what were you
fans.
saying?
They're not super fans clearly because they didn't see the movie in theaters. Like when they, I mean, like they were like they waited until
3 years old.
They waited until 2022 to rent it because they saw a trailer.
And also the movie wasn't that like I saw the movie on a flight and like it was not good. Like it wasn't bad. It just like
disagree.
wasn't.
I disagree.
You
I
liked
love that
it?
movie. I like it.
I'm a huge Beatles fan though. Like I got a little obsessed when I was younger and I just didn't think that it did it justice.
thought
Like,
it
I
was-
don't know, it's kind of weird,
But
but
that's not the point.
I know I just like didn't like the vibe that much. But either way, they're going up against this big machine. Like,
Yeah, Universal Pictures probably was like, "What the fuck? what
like
is
who
this?"
are you?
Now
They,
it
they
should,
put
it should
they put an intern on the case.
right.
And Ana
exactly.
de Armas is probably like, can we not talk about this? Like,
Yeah,
she's
can you-
already probably over it. So
Yeah, she's like, "Can you nerds just go back to your basement?"
this
please?"
happens all the time
Yeah.
where people are like cut out of movies. Like,
Right,
this isn't the first time that it's happened before.
I also
I
want to
mean-
make a point too that like a lot of trailers are cut before the final cut of the movie. That happens a lot. And a lot of
100%.
time movie studios will intentionally put in scenes in trailers that aren't in the movie. Just it happens a lot with horror movies to throw people off, like
Mhm.
whatever. Now, should they have like thought about like, hey, like it's a 10-second moment in the trailer that they show her. And the director said they cut the scene because like the main character was like flirting with her, and they thought that it would make him like unlikable trying to flirt with this like movie actress. So he wanted to maintain his likability, so he cut the scene. But that happens a lot, people. Like they cut trailers before the final cut of the film, and like that sometimes happens.
I
just
hope
think
these guys get $1 million. That's what I hope.
See, I figured Owen would be like,
I hope
I'm
they
all
get their
for this.
$3.99 back.
I figured Owen would
I'm
be
about
all
to
for
just
this.
Venmo them so they just shut the fuck up.
Seriously, I mean, like, but I agree with you about Ana de Armas. She probably is like, there are probably people reaching out to her, like, "Do you have a comment?" She's probably like, "No,
Shut up.
shut up."
She's like, I'm trying to get famous from Knives Out. Like, get out of
Yeah.
here. Clearly,
She's
this
like-
wasn't my moment.
"Yeah,
You know,
2019 wasn't my year, but like, the next year it was." Actually, 2019 was her year. Like, when did Knives Out come out? It came out in 2019.
2019.
So yeah, it came out after fucking yesterday. So like,
Well,
just
I mean, I think
watch Knives Out.
And she was the star of
she's-
that.
She's
Yeah.
made a name for herself in a lot of other things. It's not necessarily like her year or anything. I mean, she was in Blade Runner.
She's in Blade Runner, yeah.
A lot of other.
She
like, a
dated
lot
Ben
of-
Affleck.
Yeah, she did.
Well, that's an L in my book.
Yeah.
So
There's a reason their movie's going straight to Hulu now that he's dating J Lo. I had suspicions that like she was like, "I don't want you promoting that movie where," like, yeah. But yeah, she's definitely like it. It was just interesting. I thought like there's so many other movies they can watch her in where she's like the
It's
lead,
wild.
and like
I want to
it-
see what these guys look like.
I was like one of them from San Diego.
Like
I was
two
"Oh, what
nerds
part?"
and living in their mom's basement.
It's actually
probably.
Paul McCartney. Paul McCartney's doing.
But I thought it was so rude too to insult. I forgot the lead actor's name, but Lily James. But they're basically saying like their star power wasn't big enough, so like they used Ana de Armas to like pump up the movie and make you want to go see it. And I don't think anyone felt that way but them.
Yeah.
There's so, I mean, they're suing for false advertisement, but like, it's so dumb.
I think the thing is though, Gaius, I think that all of the facts you're making about what they think, it's all just lawyer talk to make their like sides sound viable. I don't think that's how they actually feel. They probably are like, dude, we could actually probably do this. And
Yeah, I mean, yeah. 'cause
like,
anyone-
but we got,
It's
but
a
we got,
class
but we
action
have to
lawsuit.
make,
I'm looking
but
at
we
it.
have to make it sound legit. So they probably actually don't really give a fuck, but they're like, listen, we could actually.
No, it's like a full on like I'm looking at the thing right now. It's Connor Wolf, an individual, and Peter Michael Rosa, an individual, versus Universal Studios LLC. Like this is like a legit, like there's a whole document online you can read. This is
It's
crazy.
ridiculous. And I wonder if they knew each other. Or they were like, hey man, they're like, did you rent it? Like, yeah, I rented it too. Where was she?
I want my fucking money back.
What at $3.99? And what can they sue for?
This
They're
is so
$3.99.
funny.
Oh man,
Yeah.
I'm
I
sure she
kinda-
got paid. I'm sure she still got paid for it. So
She
like,
did get- yeah, they. I mean, that
Doesn't
happens a lot with
matter.
that. Like with actors, like scenes get cut. It happens all the time.
it happens.
It's
Yeah.
nothing new. I don't think they expect anyone to, sue. I mean, like I don't even think it's something that she should be flattered by. She shouldn't be like, oh, that's cute. Like, no, she's like, I'm concerned.
There's definitely been times where I watch a movie and I'm like, oh, I wish that character was in it more. Like
Right.
in the trailer, it looked like they were in it more because they showed all the scenes of them in the trailer. But I would never sue for that. I wouldn't even think about suing for that.
No.
I don't have enough money to sue Universal.
I
was
would
gonna
be,
say.
I would be embarrassed to get a lawyer to do it. Like, what are you suing for? Like, Anna de Armas wasn't in the movie.
That's like
as
such a
promised.
privileged thing. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, that was a funny one to end that on. So we are every month we're gonna kind of do a deep dive into a movie that we love and kind of talk about not just like why we like it, but like, you know, kind of like if it still holds up for us compared to when we first saw it, like maybe some behind the scenes stuff about like how it was made. And also give us an opportunity to, or give you guys an opportunity to get to know us and the movies that we like. So we're gonna switch off every month. Like this month it's me, and then be followed by Brittany, and then Owen, and then back around again.
You're getting the last pick because I'm not in the biz.
Hey, we offered. I said which one wants to go first, and then
Brittany texted back in the group chat quicker. That's why she.
She did text back quicker.
The second Gaius said, "Who wants to go next?" 30
She's like,
seconds
"Me,
later, Brittany said,
me."
"Oh, me," and I
Me.
already have a movie picked.
Yeah,
Exactly.
her trigger finger was ready.
Yeah.
But I picked The Social Network, released in 2010. It's written by Aaron Sorkin and directed by David Fincher. Adapted from Ben Mesrick's 2009 book, The Accidental Billionaires. It portrays the founding of social networking website Facebook and the resulting lawsuit. Or lawsuits, I should say. It stars Jesse Eisenberg as founder Mark Zuckerberg, along with Andrew Garfield as Eduardo Saverin, Justin Timberlake as Sean Parker, and Armie Hammer in the dual roles of Cameron and Tyler Winklevoss. There are also a lot of other actors that would become big later, like Rooney Mara is in the movie, and she's the opening scene, like his girlfriend. Dakota Johnson is in the movie. She's in the first scene that Justin Timberlake gets introduced in. The movie, when it came out, was released October 1st, 2010, was a major critical and commercial success, grossing $224 million worldwide on a $40 million budget. It also went on to win 3 Oscars for Best Adapted Screenplay, Best Score, and Best Editing. And it was also nominated for Best Picture. It lost to The King's Speech, but we will get to that snub later. In the years since, it has maintained a strong reputation as a lot of people say it's like one of the best movies of the decade that it came out in. And then Brittany pointed me to this a while ago, but the Writers Guild of America ranked Aaron Sorkin's screenplay the 3rd greatest of the 21st century.
Wow.
So before we go, I need to look at the list. I know. Oh, Get Out was number 1. Okay. That was number 1. I forgot what number 2 was. But before we get into, or I get into like the things I like and all that stuff, I'm kind of curious when you guys first saw it and what you thought about it when you first saw it.
Gosh, I mean, I don't know when exactly I saw it. I know I didn't see it in theaters, but the first time that I saw it, I think I was probably with my family or something, and we just put a movie on. But it still to this day is one of the most rewatchable movies that I continue to like. As I was telling you guys before we started recording, I have about 15 minutes left. I was just rewatching it before we started this. And I mean, every single minute of it is, the transitions are perfect. The dual dichotomy of the lawsuits versus what's actually happening is great. The screenplay and the dialogue is unbelievable. I think that one of my favorite little tidbits about is that Aaron Sorkin, they asked him he's like, "Oh, I want to make a movie that's 2 hours long." They said, "Well, it can't be more than 2 hours." And he read the screenplay from front to back, and it was 1 hour, 59 minutes and whatever seconds it was, like right at the very end. So I think that that's just not only incredible, but it just makes it's a really good movie. And I can't wait to kind of hear what you guys think about it. One of my favorite things continuing to watch it is the use of the still shot. I think there's a lot of really, really good still shots that the characters and the actors do a really good job moving throughout that frame, but continuing to draw your eye to specific points, but also not overdoing it like Gravity or something like that. So I just it's one of my favorite movies. I'll say that.
All right, what about you, Brittany?
I definitely saw it in theaters. when it came out in 2010. You said 2010?
2010, yeah.
Yeah. I remember seeing it in theaters. I saw it with my ex-boyfriend. I remember having like a really deep discussion about it after, because I mean, I remember getting Facebook for the first time. Like I remember, it's just a very vivid memory of getting Facebook for the first time. It was, you had to be invited on. So I remember my brother inviting me on to Facebook, and unfortunately that means that I have like Facebook statuses that go back to 2008,
Oof.
which is tragic.
Tragic.
But
Before you
yeah, I
realize
remember.
that everything you put on the internet is there forever.
Forever.
I mean, I was just like writing like lyrics to songs as my status. So like I don't really feel like I did that much damage.
You took the what's on your mind very literally.
But yeah, I was very emotional. But I do like, I still think that Facebook is such a big part of our culture today. And I mean, I know that they've kind of like talked or hinted, and David Fincher and Aaron Sorkin both are interested in doing not a sequel necessarily, but
like a follow-up, like
a
a continuation.
Like a follow-up movie, because there's so much that's happened since that movie came out, and it's so much more, as like Facebook has really taken over. I mean, they're meta now. So especially with like the election stuff, I think there's so much there. And I think that teamwork of Aaron Sorkin and Dave to this would be incredible.
Yeah, I think so too. Well, David Fincher is like my favorite director, like ever. Like I like Seven's one of my favorite movies, and I just
Zodiac.
yeah, Zodiac is one of my favorite movies as well. I think what I remember being the most surprised, I saw it opening night, and what I remember being the most surprised by is that you could make a movie like this interesting, which is it's a lot of talk and a lot of like, kind of like just people in courtrooms going back and forth. But that's kind of just the power of Aaron Sorkin's writing, which is crazy because like when you're in film school, a lot of the times they tell you not to make your projects like too dialogue heavy because they want you to move the action along. And I think there are only a few people that can get away with that, and Aaron Sorkin's one of them. I think Quentin Tarantino might be another, where like they're all kind of like dialogue heavy movies that they make. I think every kind of word that he put to page in that is just like art. Like there was a period where I would want to, if I was wanting to feel inspired by something, I would watch that movie at least once a month at one point in my life. Because like it was just so like you get inspired while watching it. And I think it's a combination of how well written it is, how well directed it is. But then you also are watching a movie about people like building like a startup, right? And even though the story kind of ends in such a, there's like, betrayal amongst friends and like all that stuff, there is still that kind of like at the core of the movie, this like creation of something big with your friends.
Yeah.
And that I think appealed to a lot of, I think, younger people too at the time when the movie came out. Because they were saying after the movie came out, there was like a boost and like younger people wanting to create their own startups and doing all that kind of stuff, even though that the movie shows like the darker side of doing that. But yeah, I've always just been impressed by like how a movie like that can hold your attention from start to finish and not once be boring. Like it never loses its way at all. It still like moves, even though like there's just a lot of talking.
I think that contributes to it. It only gets better as you keep watching. Yeah. Like each time that like every scene is building on the last, but they don't have to tell you that. And I think that some of my favorite movies of all time are based on the dialogue and what is contributing in the dialogue. No Country for Old Men is something that I'll mention too, where it's like the action is in the conversation between people. It's not about like what's actually going on. It's more the dialogue is what moves the movie forward. And I think that The Social Network does such a great job of continuing to keep you invested while also making you like, dislike, and have interest in every single character that's on screen.
Right. I agree. And it starts from like the opening too. Like that whole opening with him and his with Jesse Eisenberg and Rooney Mara. It's like a sparring match, like them going back and forth. I know there has been some issues, like because Mark Zuckerberg has talked about the accuracy of like the movie, and we can go into that a little bit, but like yeah, the catalyst of him starting Facebook because of like something to do with a girl. He said that's not the case. That's not why it happened. But I think for the movie, that it's the right vehicle to use that as like the catalyst for why he.
It just shows his inspiration and how he can create something from one event.
Right.
They approached Mark Zuckerberg to help make this movie, and he said no. He said, I want nothing to do with this. So they were like, okay, we are going to use our imagination based on the
book, and then like
the book and the actual like the notes from not the trial, but
depositions,
the settlement,
the
deposition. So they took everything that they just took all of the evidence that they had and dramatized it, all because he didn't want to be part of it. So if he doesn't like it, that's too damn bad.
Yeah, I mean, I think that makes sense because like they did approach him, and like a lot of the real people weren't really consultants on the movie. I know Eduardo was a consultant on the book that the movie's based on. And a lot of people that are involved in the real life thing said there were some things that were dramatized and like kind of put on in the movie, but that's going to be normal in any movie. Even though that opening scene is not supposed to be, that's not why he did it, according to him. I think it speaks to a lot of his character in general that they would even go that route to be like, this is the reason why this guy would do this. Because like I think that's a lot of like they base a lot of that on like his personality in real life, and like you said, the notes they have on him based on what they do know from other people. I know that he felt it was insulting that they were like, oh, because he got burned by a girl, that's why because it doesn't make him too likable, right? Like from the start.
He's never likable in the entire movie.
Right. So that's an interesting thing too, because it goes from the opening scene to that. Like, do you think that he recovers?
I do want to mention. I just want to mention something about the opening scene also, because David Fincher also said that he wanted to start the movie off with a blank screen and them talking so that you knew that you had to pay attention or you would miss something. Like he wanted his audience to know right away that this movie is going to be quick. And if you look away or blink, you'll miss something. Like he did that on purpose. It was a stylistic thing. So I just thought that was interesting.
I think that's great.
And that's why they're speaking like so fast too. Like the way they're like going back and forth. And honestly, some actors love this, some don't. David Fincher is like notorious for like a lot of takes, like over and over and over again. There's actually a YouTube video of Andrew Garfield having to smash the laptop like over and over again in that scene towards the end where he like confronts Mark. So like a lot of this, and that's hard too in a movie that's really dialogue heavy, where you're kind of like having to do a lot with words. But like, I mean, they were all pretty much up to the task of doing it. That's why I think like Jesse Eisenberg, it's weird because I like him in this movie. I think he's good. I haven't really liked him a lot in other things though. And I don't know if it's just because like this felt like this was not really, I guess not made for him, but it really suited his
casting.
It suited his abilities, I think. And like it's weird depending on how many times I watch it. Sometimes I have moments where I feel a little bad for him because I guess he might just be a little lonely and just wants like some kind of attention. He wants to matter, I guess. And you can actually tell that a lot in the scenes that he has with Justin Timberlake, where he's just like enamored by him and like wants to like be as cool as him. But yeah, then sometimes I fall in the camp like you, where it's like he's not likable at all. Like he's just like, but maybe in the end, like, you know, he fucks over his best friend. Like, and even though his best friend,
I feel like his character wants to be validated. Like when he was saying the stuff of Facebook's cool, we don't want ads. It's cool right now. We don't know what it's going to be. Andrew Garfield's character was not validating his feelings. So when he finally heard someone else who has previously been successful and is famous, started another company, made millions of dollars, say that, he said, thank God someone else is thinking like me. And so I think that that's kind of the character, like he has this mindset and he has this opinion that he knows he's right. And not a lot of people think that. And so like being right does not, I think they even say it in the movie where it's like, just because you're right doesn't mean you're not a dick.
Yeah, pretty much. And it's interesting too because watching like the relationship between like him and Andrew Garfield's character, it's even obvious to me early on, like that friendship is very like kind of fragile. Like it's not gonna like he doesn't really want him to like when they talk about him doing that
The Phoenix Club.
the Phoenix Club thing, yeah, and he like kind of like not necessarily like distracts him from it, but kind of like almost plants the seed about like why he shouldn't do it, because he almost wants to keep him on his level until he doesn't need him anymore.
Yeah,
their conversations are very like business transaction. Like there's no substance to their conversations whatsoever.
Right.
It's very much like can you help me with this? Oh, you can't. Oh, you can. Like it's very much like, please help me. Don't help me. Like it's very much like businessy, all about the business.
I need you here because of money.
Yeah, he asked him for $1,000 up front, and then ever since that moment, it's just all about the money.
They never talk as if they're like best friends.
No. Yeah, like you can't even tell that they're actually friends. Like I need to know more about their friendship, but I'd like that there isn't much substance to that, because you can see how like Mark Zuckerberg didn't have friends. Like you can tell he just didn't have genuine friends, and Eduardo was trying to be that person, and he just wasn't giving him anything to go off of.
Right.
And the thing is, Mark Zuckerberg, or in this depiction of him, thought that creating something and being a part of something would get him friends. He never thinks that he is the issue. He never realizes that his behavior is why he doesn't have friends.
Right.
And so like when someone finally says like, listen, I was your only friend, I actually cared about you, and this is why I did stuff for you, he doesn't get that.
Yeah, I agree. I want to bring up Andrew Garfield. I think for a lot of us, this is probably the first thing that most of us saw him in, I think.
Yeah.
And I asked someone on Instagram like who their favorite character was and why. Like I put the question on G-Rolls, and one of them not only gave his character's name and Andrew Garfield, but said the reason for that because they felt that he was the only likable person in the movie. Like you actually feel bad for him at certain points, even though I mean like he does the thing towards the end where he like freezes the account when he realizes that like they were going to push him out, but that's not bad that they were going to.
I don't think that makes him unlikable.
Well, yeah, I think that his character is very naive, right? He starts like throwing money at this thing and is trusting his friend to do the right thing when it comes to like contracts and splitting all this up.
He even says he's like, I thought they were my lawyers when he goes to sign the documents.
Right. I think what Andrew Garfield does that's really good, his performance is very subtle until it doesn't have to be anymore, to where he's just so angry at the situation. Like it kind of builds and builds and builds. Like I think it kind of hits like a fever pitch when like Mark was supposed to pick him up from the airport and he doesn't. And he comes to the house, it's like raining, he's like out there in the rain, and Justin Timberlake's here, like Sean Parker opens the door, and like of course is like they already don't like each other, and he's just kind of digging at him, and like he was like, you were supposed to pick me up, like what? And he's like, oh, I basically didn't remember, and he's letting Sean Parker kind of dig at him, and you kind of feel bad that like this person who's supposed to have his back clearly is more invested in like this new guy who is like showing him all these new things, and he's already thinking about how he doesn't even need
Yeah, I mean, I think the line that stands out to me in that scene is when it shows how much Sean has influenced Mark Zuckerberg, is when Andrew Garfield's character says, it's like, oh, I've read a lot about you online. I know kind of the stuff that you've been getting into. I know sort of your personality. I know you've hung out with underage girls and drugs and stuff like that. And then Justin Timberlake says, you know what I've read about you online?
Like nothing.
And I think that really shows kind of
delivery like, is so good too.
Like the different perspectives that they have is that it's not about the interaction that they have with people. It's about who knows you. And that's like the basis of the entire movie about Phoenix Club and the final club that in Harvard, it's who do you know, who knows you. And that's why he made Face Mash. was to get people's attention to start paying attention to him.
And
And
I
I
also
think that
think I also think Eduardo didn't care about the notoriety.
no,
Like he didn't really he wanted to join Phoenix Club because it would help his career and it would help his networking. Like he wasn't joining it to be like cool or to have to make friends. And I also think at the very beginning he's automatically a likable character because when Mark breaks up with his girlfriend, when they break up after that scene, we're introduced to Eduardo in a moment where you would think that he's like he really is genuinely, he's like, I heard you guys broke up. Like, I saw your blog post.
Yeah.
Are you good? Like,
what do you need?
I
And
think
he's
you
like,
should
I
take
need
it.
something from you, but it's your
I think,
formula, not you.
yeah. And he's like, I think you should take the blog down. Like, he always was looking out for Mark in the best way, but Mark didn't want him to or need him to, but he always wanted him to, like, he was already aware of like what you put on the internet is going to
Yeah.
not help your image, and he was already aware of that back in 2005 or whatever, which is
I think rewatching this just shows to me how good of an actor Andrew Garfield is because his depiction of trying to kind of open up to his friends or to Mark and really share his experience that he's going through. And any normal person would be happy for you, but not necessarily jealous or angry about it. Like one of my favorite scenes is when he kind of goes, it's like, hey, I made the second cut of the Phoenix. And he wants to share that with his friends. He wants to say, hey, listen, like this is something that's going on cool with me. But his ability as an actor to kind of show that, listen, this is just kind of how Mark reacts to things. Because then Mark goes, oh yeah, if you don't make it any further, like it's no testament on you. Good job. Like it's
Oh, yeah,
no matter what, it's all backhanded compliments.
Yeah,
all
his reaction to
backhanded.
that is almost kind of like I kind of would expect it more from my friend, like to
And he wants more, but
Yeah.
his reaction is just kind of like, I get it. Like that's just kind of who he is.
Well, it's a very one-sided friendship. Like it's very like and it'd be interesting. I wish I kind of knew like in real life how that relationship kind of started and played out, because it just seems like, you know, like he always saw something he could use in him. And then I guess in that situation, it was the fact that he had a lot of money and or his family had a lot of money. You know, I some people have asked, like, because, you know, like they all have these different ideas as to how the Facebook would work, right? And whether or not all of Mark's ideas were the best, or maybe some of Rodgers weren't even like realistic, if they would have kind of come to some kind of common ground. Because like there was a whole issue about like running ads and not running ads, and then Sean Parker gets involved, right? And then Sean Parker gets involved and says that you need to do this, and like Andrew Garfield's character like, no, we don't need to do that. I thought it was just interesting to see, like, you know, was he naive to how this kind of business thing worked, or did he have good ideas that if they would have just listened to what he wanted to do, they would have just been fine with how, you know, just themselves like developing it. But I guess, you know, he kind of felt like he needed someone like Sean Parker because, you know, he did provide them with things that they did need. It just wasn't in the, you know, the way that, you know, Eduardo wanted him to. It was kind of like a lot of it, you know, he talked about all his like failed businesses and stuff, but Mark Zuckerberg is so enamored with how cool Sean is that he doesn't really care. Like, you know, that you know, the dinner scene that they have, like when they meet him for the first time, is like one of my favorite scenes, because like you could tell that, like, you know, like
the Appletinis.
Yeah, the Appletinis. Like, this is why I think Justin Timberlake, and I don't know if you guys feel the same way, why Justin Timberlake was the right choice for that role, because whether or not you think that it was miscast or it was stunt casting because of who he was or is or whatever, Justin Timberlake is naturally kind of, in my opinion, seems like a little smug and a little arrogant. So but
also charismatic.
So he brought a lot of that to that part, and you had to believe that like someone like Mark would like kind of fall for what he's selling, and Justin Timberlake is really good at selling it. So like when they're going that kind of sparring with each other at that dinner where he's like laying out the stuff that he used to do, and then like Andrew Garfield's trying to like shoot him down, but like, well, how are those companies still open? And like they're going back and forth, and like Andrew Garfield keeps kind of like losing because like, you know, Justin Timberlake's character is better one up.
JT has an answer for everything.
Yeah.
Justin Timberlake played a similar role right before this. He was in a movie called Model Behavior.
Oh,
it's like a Disney movie. He played like he played like a cool like rock star guy. It was like I think it was like a Disney Channel original movie. If you know, you know, Model Behavior. If you've seen it, if you're listening, you know what I'm talking about. But he played this cool actor guy, and he like had this huge ego. And so then he played in this movie, and this was like the second movie that I had seen him in. And so that's who I thought, like you were saying, Gaius, like that's literally the image I have in my head of Justin Timberlake, and it's not a good image. Like I don't like that character. I don't like that person. So I just had like a salty taste in my mouth towards him as an actor. I think because of both those roles that I've seen him in, where he was just like a total douchebag.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, I also think that the character in and of itself is throw caution to the wind, whereas Andrew Garfield's character is logical and let's think about this step by step. But in order for that company to succeed, you kind of had to do both, where you had to listen to some, you know what, it probably is time to drop out of college and focus on this because things are really, really moving and happening. But you also have to think of, okay, but how are we going to generate revenue? What is the business model? What's the plan? You can't just kind of go in at it with guns a-blazing with no plan. So that's kind of the strings that Mark was dealing with and having to listen to. And he wanted to be cool. And so he listened to Sean Parker.
Yeah. And to be
And
fair,
I think
I know you think he's a douche in it. I mean, but I guess that's the point, right? You're not supposed to like him.
right.
I mean, if that's the job that he's supposed to sell, then I think there's moments where I think he's kind of snarky and funny, but overall, like you're not supposed to love the guy. So I mean, but I get what you're saying too. Like that kind of like, I feel like a lot of that isn't acting from Justin Timberlake either. I think that in some part of his personality, like that is there.
He's got something.
Yeah. And like, and I think that's why David Fincher even casted him. I think that had a lot to do with like his persona as a pop star already, that he was able to kind of convey that in that role pretty well.
And I did want to touch on David Fincher. I mean, his like stylistic ability in this movie very briefly, because there's a couple scenes where, and he does this in like Seven, and he does this in a lot of his other movies, Fight Club, where his characters are like kind of, one of them's facing towards you, the other one's facing away. And I mean, there's a lot to say with exposition. And I think he plays a lot with the way the camera is facing certain people. My favorite scene, or I guess my favorite little like shot that he has is when when Mark Zuckerberg throws the beer and it like hits, it feels like it's going to hit you in the face. And I just like that scene is like one of my favorites because it really does like kind of like, it feels like he's throwing it at me.
Yeah.
But yeah, David Fincher is one of my favorite directors for that reason. I think you can read a lot into how he directs.
Yeah, and there's a lot of attention to detail. I mean, that's why I think even though there are some complaints from certain people that are like, oh, he wants to do this over and over again, like not just with the acting though. I think there's a lot of attention to detail and how he shoots things, how he frames things.
He's very strategic,
right? And there's and the good thing about a David Fincher movie, just because his style is so strong, when you're watching one, you know that you're watching one. Like he is such a good like visual director, and like the fact that he could like turn like that rowing scene that shouldn't be that exciting, but it is for some reason because of just the way he shoots it. And the music. And also credit to Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross who did the score, because that's not like a traditional movie score. And
I mean, I think like
it does a lot to pull emotions out of you.
Like the first song even proves that. Opening credits is just incredible. And I mean, going back to the rowing scene, I'm wondering, is this one of the first instances where we see an actor play two roles at the same time?
I think it's been done before. They did it in the
original Parent Trap.
Yeah, I guess how they did it in this, like they had, like, because he did play both parts, but they had like a body double. If they had to be in scenes together, they had a body double like stand in, and then they would.
It's amazing.
And then they would CGI.
Oh yeah, the original Parent Trap and the Lindsay Lohan one both did it.
Yeah. So they would CGI Armie Hammer's face over the body double when there would have to be scenes of them together.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, and the body double at first didn't want to take the role because he was like, well, they're not going to know it's me. But like he ended up saying that like he learned a lot working on it because he got to work with David Fincher no matter what. And and he's in all those scenes with Army Hammer. Like
They
it's
make
just,
one
like,
of them. They make one of the twins like an inch shorter. Like
Yeah.
they make it look like they're like a little bit. They're the similar build, but one of them is definitely like an inch taller or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the body double actually has a cameo in the movie. It's after Mark and Eduardo meet the two girls and they're hooking up in the bathroom. And then like they're standing in front of the bathroom waiting for the girls to come out. And
it's
the
that
guy
guy?
comes, and the guy comes up to like, yeah, it's him.
That's
So
a
he
great
got to
scene.
have
That's a
he
great
got to
scene.
have his own moment.
I actually love that. I love that.
Did you
where
say
he's-
that's a great dude?
Sorry, guys.
Great
There's-
dude.
Sorry, guys. There's two girls freshening up in there. He's like, nice.
Nice. Yeah.
All right.
I guess we'll talk about Army Hammer a little bit. So this is the only thing I really like him in, but I think it's because I think he also kind of is playing himself. It's like it feels like an extension of his personality too. There's like a smugness and arrogance that kind of is in both of those characters that I just think is just innate in like Army Hammer, and that's why he played it so well.
Well, I really like him in Man from Uncle. I really like
yeah,
that movie a lot. So, but those are the two movies where I probably would consistently watch that he's in. Besides that,
Call Me by
that
Your
movie.
Name.
That's a good. Call Me by Your Name's good too.
Okay.
They were
but
gonna make another one, but
yeah, canceled.
they can't.
But he is good. I just think I don't think it was a stretch. Like I just think
He plays like a
plays
pretentious, like
entitled.
rich. Yeah.
Yeah,
But I think that the writing helped them a lot because the way that those twins are written by Aaron Sorkin is like the definition of successful entitled for a reason, coming from a good family, having the means to kind of get what you want. And
I mean, they get told no. Like the president of
Yeah.
Harvard tells them
tells
no.
them no.
So
Yeah, and they're so devastated.
it
by
is-
it.
I love that scene. I love
that
yeah.
scene too.
So yeah, they are like an entitled, like they are entitled and they're like these rich kids that went to Harvard, but they're kind of right. They're like, we carry 3.9. We're taking Harvard to the Olympics. Like they are kind of right where they're like, we came up with this idea. We deserve the credit. We deserve more of the money and the actuality of like coming up with this product that's now going to make millions. And the president thinks it's just some stupid like club or something.
Mhm.
Yeah,
I love
I wonder how that president feels now.
Yeah. Come up with
All
another
right.
idea. Another Facebook. Yeah, all right.
Yeah.
I just love we're not going to sue anyone because we're gentlemen of Harvard.
of Harvard. Yeah, that's not what we do.
But it is interesting that at the end it said like Eduardo is now a co-founder of Facebook. So I wonder how that all played out with the whole Meta thing.
Oh, now, yeah. I mean, like, because we don't really know, like, because there's always this issue with the movie too, especially even in the years since it's come out. Is like how much of it is accurate, how much of a piece that did certain people actually get. I would be interested.
I would love to see a follow-up.
because a lot of them don't talk about it happened so long ago. I mean, they wouldn't talk about it anymore, I guess. And I guess the movie brought more attention to it because a lot of people, I didn't know a lot of this before I heard about the movie. I was not aware that there was this big, issue with Facebook like that, and that, other people claimed to have created it or been a part of creating it. So the movie was like, I guess this is what some of the real people probably don't like, is that when I saw the movie, I was like, these are like facts. I was like, I had nothing else to I had nothing else to go on. But now, like, having read like what other real people that have been involved with the story have said, like they have pointed that some of the stuff was true, but like with anything in the movie, some of it's like over dramatized, like for dramatic effect.
Yes.
And,
do you remember getting Facebook for the first time?
yeah, I do. It was I kind of avoided it for a little bit because I wasn't. I was a MySpace person.
I knew you were going to say that. I knew you were going to say that.
But then, like with anything, you just feel like you don't want to be not involved with a movement. So I was like, all right, I'll get on it. A lot of people I remember at the time were using it, and I think some people still use it this way, but use it as a way to like vent out their frustrations and like hoping that someone.
You think people still do that, dude?
I mean,
that is what Facebook is.
but I think because I don't use it as much for personal use anymore as I do for like promoting this and promoting like stuff and the website, I don't see it as much. But I used to see it a lot where, you know, you would just look at a status update and it was like, you are just crying now for someone to be like, I see you. Like, don't worry, I know.
I used it exactly what they intended it for. Like, we were on it day and night trying to find out people's relationship status on there. Yeah. My friends and I were on there all, like, we would hang out and just like go on Facebook, and it's so addicting. Dakota Johnson's character says that in the movie too. She's like, it's freakishly addicting. So like, be aware of it. And it is.
I mean, think that like if anyone has ever put an "it's complicated" as your relationship status, like, you're seeking attention. Like, why would you ever put that?
Why is it complicated? Well, since you asked,
let me tell you.
Yeah. Brittany it's complicated.
It's complicated. Or if like you got someone's like event invite for a party and you put like maybe, you're like, what do you mean maybe? Yeah. I
definitely was making like,
I did a lot of
song statuses as my status.
Like your like lyrics.
Yeah, like I had a boyfriend in middle school, and like if like things were on the fritz or whatever, I would like post so that he would see it and then like text me or whatever. You know, like I was.
Yeah.
Oh, Jesus.
I hate that I'm talking about this. I'm just can we X this part out?
We're gonna I want to talk a little bit about the Oscars, because it was nominated for Best Picture. It lost to The King's Speech, and I don't want to like insult The King's Speech, I'm sure people loved it, but like there are certain movies that are like what they call like Oscar bait, and The King's Speech was Oscar bait. And I remember at the time I was like, they missed a real, because it wasn't like this movie was a slouch. I mean, it's a 96% on Rotten Tomatoes. Like it was on 22 critics. It was their number one movie on 22 critics list as their number one movie of the year. And it ended up in the top 10 list of 78 other critics. So it wasn't like it was a slouch that was kind of like there at the Oscars. A lot of people thought that it had potential to win Best Picture, and it didn't. And I remember when after it lost The King's Speech, like someone wrote, I think it was like Variety or the Hollywood Reporter, that said like the Oscars had the opportunity to do something very different. And what they did, they decided that this movie was too young, too hip, and didn't want to acknowledge it at the Oscars. Now, it did win Best Adapted Screenplay because it'd be hard not to give it to Aaron Sorkin for that screenplay. And it won Best Editing because the editing is phenomenal in it. And it won Best Score. But a lot of people, like to this day, are like, it should have won Best Picture over The King's Speech.
I agree.
I think there was an opportunity to, and that's a lot of problem with the Oscars sometimes, is that, you know, a lot of people don't think that they speak to like the everyday moviegoer, you know? So there's that kind of issue with it. But I really wish that
I'm just curious what it was nominated against for screenplay.
I actually have that. So best adapted screenplay that year was 127 Hours with James Franco, and then Toy Story 3, True Grit, which you love, Owen.
Love that movie.
And Winter's Bone, which is
Winter's Bone. Filmed in Missouri. Takes place in Missouri.
And then like the best picture nominees that year were Black Swan, The Fighter, Inception, The Kids Are All Right, The King's Speech, 127 Hours, Social Network, Toy Story 3, True Grit, and Winter's Bone. It was a pretty strong year.
Yeah, I was going to say, hell of a freaking year.
And Best Director went to Tom Hooper for The King's Speech. He beat David O. Russell for The Fighter, David Fincher for The Social Network, Joel and Ethan Coen for True Grit, and Darren Aronofsky for Black Swan. Yeah. There was a lot of people thought that
what a great year. All white men nominated again.
I will say though, those movies are all good though.
They are all good.
Yeah, I'm sure women made some good movies that year as well, but guess we'll never know.
It wasn't Inception though.
Yeah. Now the crazy thing is that Andrew Garfield didn't win. He was nominated that year for a Golden Globe for Best Supporting Actor and a SAG Award for Best Supporting Actor. He did not get nominated for an Oscar. It was considered one of the biggest snubs that year. And they don't know who necessarily might have taken his place, because that year it was Christian Bale for The Fighter, Jeremy Renner for The Town, Jeffrey Rush for The King's Speech, Mark Ruffalo for The Kids Are All Right, and John Hawkes for Winter's Bone.
It was
Christian Bale won that year,
Yeah, I'm not surprised.
and like he's good in that too. But yeah, I think that the Oscars had the opportunity to kind of do like I agree that they were afraid to go too young and that they wouldn't like. I think they thought it was cool that they invited them to the party and they gave them a few handouts, but they weren't going to like give them like the big prize at the end.
Yeah,
Basically.
that's true. It's a bummer. They deserve
But yeah,
it.
but that doesn't like that doesn't hurt his legacy at all
Yeah.
whatsoever.
Yeah.
Overall, I think it's just an incredible movie that still holds up to this day, and just really it's kind of a staple for what the world's like now.
Right. And I
Because
kind of think
even like the first line, it's like he's like, "Oh, how many people are you sending it to?" He's like, "That doesn't matter. It's how many people are they sending it to," and
Right.
that just kind of shows like the power of word of mouth and the power of what people like. And if you like it, you're going to show your friends. If your friends like it, they're going to show their friends, and then it just exponentially explodes.
Yep. And I think it's I also think it's a good like for young filmmakers that are trying to. I'm not saying that you need to emulate it. I just think it's a really good example of like if you're wanting to learn about different aspects of filmmaking, from directing to cinematography to editing, writing, like it's a really good example of how to do all that right.
Mm-hmm.
And I also, like I said, I don't agree with that whole like I was telling Owen this too, Brittany, like it's sometimes in film school they tell you not to like have like too much dialogue. They want you to move action, like they have to keep moving, but like good writers can make scenes move with words, and that's what I think Aaron Sorkin does in this.
Almost,
and he's done that a lot. He does that a lot. I mean, A Few Good Men. Like if you ever watched The West Wing, like he is very good. He's very good at doing that. And
I always argue that the writers of Gilmore Girls are like equivalent to Aaron Sorkin for TV.
It's all this.
And that gets
so fast.
It gets a lot of hate, but their scripts are so fast and so quick, and they're so smart, just like Aaron Sorkin's are. I don't know why that gets a lot of hate, but Gaius, I remember talking to you about this at one point, but
no, you brought it up to me before, because it's true.
I
It's
think
the same.
Amy Palladino.
Yeah,
it's very quick-witted and really smart writing, and I think that's like a true talent. I think that's like, and to have actors that can portray it in the way that you want it to. I mean, Jeff Daniels for Aaron Sorkin and Lauren Graham for Amy Palladino. I mean, you have to have incredible actors to do it as well.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, I'm gonna say this to like kind of wrap it up a bit. Like someone asked me if it's my favorite movie of the decade that it came out in, and I can wholeheartedly say it's my favorite movie of that decade.
Would you consider it like the early of 2000 to 2010, or would
like I guess like 10 like 10 to now? Yeah, basically.
Okay, yeah. Because I was gonna say like so
there's a lot there's a lot before like it'd be hard.
I was gonna say, so it's your favorite movie from 2010 to 2020 or 2000? Oh wow.
It's like I think it holds up really well still. And like I mean, when Brittany sent me that thing with the list for the Writers Guild, like the only thing I think I would have just made Social Network #1 instead of Get Out. I like Get Out a lot. I mean, and I think there's a lot of intelligence in that script. I just there's more commentary in that script probably. That's why a lot of people think it's very smart and very holds together. But
I want to know what number 2 was.
For me, it's Social Network.
Well, no, number 2 for that list.
I don't remember, but I will say that I mean, I agree. It's a great movie for the decade, and it's probably in my top 10. I don't like to make lists because it's ever changing, but I do think that David Fincher is my favorite director. I like every single one of his movies. I love his stylistic. I mean, House of Cards. He directed the first episode of House of Cards. I think he did a couple more, but I mean that show. I like his style. So anything he directs, I'm a fan of.
He does a really good job with everything.
Seven is like one of my favorite movies too.
Oh no, and I got your number 2. It was Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind.
Oh wow, okay.
That's a good choice too.
Yeah.
The whole like top 10 is pretty good. But yeah, I would make a few switches, but
yeah,
it works.
Overall, Gaius, great pick for our first deep dive.
Thank you.
Yeah,
awesome.
I enjoyed that one.
I'm very looking forward to Brittany. You want to give a little sneak peek of what we're going to be getting into for yours?
yeah, I thought I would go with my theme for this podcast. I chose a female director. It's going to be The Hurt Locker, Catherine Bigelow. So
I think that's a great choice. I mean, she was the first woman director to win Best Picture for an Oscar, right?
yeah, and it's one of my
Yeah.
favorite movies.
That movie for me is something that, I mean, we're obviously going to get much more into it, but it's one of those things that it's the perfect war movie. I think there's a lot of war movies out there that don't do a good job, or they try and do some things that it's just kind of like fan mail basically for a movie. That one is pretty damn incredible for me. So
And we'll get into it, but she got a lot of hate for that.
I'm
Yeah.
very much looking
we'll get
forward
into
to
it.
talking about The Hurt Locker with you guys.
You know what's cool about getting into that is that I haven't watched it in like 4 years. So it'll be interesting. I haven't watched it in a while, so it'll be really interesting to watch it again. I own it. It's somewhere in my room. Just
First time I ever saw Anthony Mackie.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah.
But I do like that we're doing the previews for anyone listening, so that if someone wants to watch it before, so they can kind of listen in on the discussion. I think that'll be fun.
And also, if you want to put some comments in, my pick for for my deep dive is open-ended. So if you guys want to put anything that you'd like for us to deep dive, let us know. I mean, I'm going to be the overall judge. So if I don't like your choice, then sorry, we're not going to be doing it. but just throw some ideas.
He's going to miss that comment.
Throw some ideas out there, and then maybe we'll pick it.
Throw us some ideas, but if they suck, I'm not going to do it.
But it better be a good one.
Yeah,
it better
exactly.
be a good one. All right, Owen, sign us off.
All right, guys. As always, we are a playlist original. Nothing else I would rather do on a Monday night than talk about fun, awesome, hilarious, gripping, good written, well done movies with you guys. So it's just something that I look forward to. It starts the week off well, and you guys can listen to us just jabber and talk at each other and laugh. And if you want to look at us and see my cat make an appearance, you can watch us on YouTube. And if not, then please enjoy and keep listening. We're so happy. We're continuing to get people to listen to us. And this is just something that we like to do and enjoy. So thanks for tuning in, and we can't wait to see you guys all next week.
Yay. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.